Okay. All right. So today we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the toxic because relationships, they need boundaries. So my name is Jennifer. I go by Jen Cares, and I'm the founder of Chosen Counselors, a nonprofit organization that seeks to inspire, motivate, empower, and strengthen individuals and families. And I'm so happy and honored to be back with my friends at Turning Points for Children's Community Engagement to talk about these boundaries that we want to put in place in the relationships that we have. So today I hope to cover relationships with family, friends, acquaintances, romance, but most importantly, your relationship with yourself. We will also speak on the importance of discernment and intuition. Okay. Now, I can't say that I'm going to wow you because more than likely, a good portion of what I'm going to share is something that you've probably already heard before. But I do encourage you to share your stories, some experiences as we, take this journey together. So when preparing for this segment, the quote came to mind: when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And we know that Maya Angelou said that. I was watching a chat between her and Oprah. And she went on to share how they may say I'm crazy, I'm mean, I'm unkind, but then share how sometimes our response would then be, you're not really unkind. Then they show us that they really are unkind. And their response is, I told you. I was then, reminded that we want to do better because she shared how then it's from then when they say, I told you from the beginning that, when people know about themselves better than we do. And sometimes we don't take what they're saying, but they know sometimes what they're talking about. They say I'm mean, they may have some meanness to them. They may not always be mean to you, but they may have a little mean streak. We all do if we're honest. So the problem is, though, we sometimes can hear that negative trait and take it on as a challenge to say, I'm going to save the day. Please no, we cannot save everyone. And some people, sadly, don't want to be saved. So first I want to share and have us talk about that man, that woman in the mirror. A good, bad, or toxic relationship actually starts with you. What do you like? What are your gripes? What are your deal breakers? What are the areas you are willing to compromise in without losing yourself? Without losing yourself. You can compromise, but you still want to remain true to who you are, okay? You have to know you. You know you, okay? So if you don't want to be bothered, verbalize that. But if you don't want to be bothered and you don't verbalize that, that can become a bad thing. And that's turning a good thing into a bad thing. It could be a good situation, but because you didn't verbalize what was going on for you, it turned out to not be the best thing. So this is also tied to the importance of communication. If someone is stepping on your toe unaware, you make it known, okay? We'll call that the unconscious act because you'll say, excuse me, you're stepping on my toe. But then we have the conscious act. They know what they're doing, and it's up to you to say that's cool or not cool. But then we have the disrespectful act. They keep doing it. They heard you say stop, that you don't like it, and they keep on going. How rude, But at this time, you are at a boiling point because you have made your wishes clear and they have disregarded them, or sometimes we just keep allowing it to happen. So a good, bad, or toxic thing starts with you. We must know ourselves. I've been in some relationships that were good until they weren't good anymore. Some relationships where I was used, when people only come around to check in when they need something, then they ghost you, then check back in, and then again when they need something. But when you need something, they may not be available for your call. Not always a good relationship. But they throw in a flag if you miss their call. They're calling you and you are unavailable, and that was a big problem. But when you needed them, it was okay. That might be good, bad, toxic. I don't know. It depends on your radar for what, where you will find it. But it could be something to work on. And we'll talk about that as well. I've been in some relationships where it was one-sided. I did all the check-ins. I had the most concern. I bent and split to make sure things was good. Could be good for some, could be bad for some, could be toxic for others if you're giving too much of yourself. Then there were relationships where there was a healthy boundary. Now, it took some time to get there. We had to learn each other and find that groove. It's funny. I know a couple who recently got married and they both are virgins. And the hashtag that they put with their posts and things of that sort was clueless honeymoon. Now, if we're honest, we have all had some clueless honeymoons. It started good, and then some lessons were required, and you found out what worked and didn't work. And I shared with them, even being a virgin and getting married, it's a clueless honeymoon. But, we all would be having a clueless honeymoon, whether virgins or not virgins, whether we experience the situation or not, because we have to learn that other person. So we're clueless a little bit. And that honeymoon is the season where it's going amazing, it's fun. But then when that honeymoon season is over, it's like, oh, this is the real you? Wait a minute, you're not clueless anymore, and now you have to address that situation. I can't tell you how many times I've chatted with people who shared about bad experiences in relationships. How many times I reflected on my own bad experiences to know that this right here is a good experience. So it's because of the bad experiences that we've learned what is a good experience. But after some time, you definitely know what's a toxic experience as well. But let's talk about the warning signs that it's not a good situation. It could be unexplainable moods of the other person. It's some fear going on that you have, or you see that your mood is changing and you don't understand why it's changing. You have a lack of trust. You feel like you're being controlled. You feel like they're being judgmental. And I love that Planet Fitness is a judgment-free zone. I also love how they did not judge me when I canceled my membership because their schedule didn't fit my schedule. I know they're open 24/7, but it didn't work out, but they didn't judge me. See, the joy of the gym is that they accept you flaws and all. They see that you're actively working on it. You're going to the gym, you're actively working to do whatever it is you're going to the gym for. Yet there are some times that you have to cut ties. Not that the gym was bad, but because it doesn't adjust to your lifestyle. I had to cut ties because they were taking the funds and I could no longer really reap the benefits of those funds. It wasn't bad on my part, bad on their part. Life just didn't allow it to happen. And sometimes you have to cut ties. So in relationships, good, bad, or toxic, sometimes you just have to cut ties, whether good, bad, or toxic. Some warning signs that a relationship is bad, along with some signs that we just talked about, it could be that it's a life or death concern. They affect your day and you can't move. Negativity happening, problems are avoided. And last time I talked about rice, if we keep sweeping it under the rug, it eventually becomes a blockage in your path, a hill to go over. It may even seep down and get into your shoe, and that's uncomfortable. Eventually, it's something that we have to deal with. Because if it keeps on turning up, it becomes frustrating and irritating, and it affects our relationships with others. They're like, what's wrong with you? I'm fine. We know something's going on, so then we want to talk about that, and that's being a good friend. But sometimes it gets so bad that you can't or don't want to work it out. You just want to let it go. I remember a situation with a friend, and it was coming to the end. And Christette Michelle said it best in her song. You can say whatever you like, as long as we just say goodbye. Blame it on me. Say it's my fault. Say that I left you outside in the cold with a broken heart. I really don't care. I ain't crying no more. Say I'm a liar, a cheater. Say anything that you want, as long as it's over. And sometimes when we get sick and tired of being in a situation, we say, you know what? Yes, I did that. Just be gone. Be gone, because I no longer want this in my life. It's not helping me to grow. And if it's stumping your growth, it's a situation that you no longer want to be in. That could be family, friends, co-workers, relationships of all aspects. And sometimes with ourselves too, like, all right, you got to stop doing this because it's bad for you. It's bad for me. I can't keep on just eating any old time of the night and then get heartburn and feel like it's okay, because that can trigger to other situations. So that's a good part too of, if we're not addressing some things, or we're letting it go, it can backfire and beat us in the butt a little bit, So if I'm eating something I know I'm not supposed to be eating, then I'm going to sleep, and it causes a health issue to then come up. If I then ignore that health issue, that can spread too. So it's the same with relationships. We want to be able to identify some triggers, some problems, some things that need to change, and address it before it spirals out of control. Okay, so all hope is not lost though, because sometimes it can be a bad situation at that moment, but it doesn't mean it's bad for the extent of the whole relationship. It doesn't mean you need to throw it away. There's sometimes that I do want to throw it away and have thrown it away. And sometimes I should have thrown it away before I did finally throw it away. However, there are still some times where it's workable. So what are some signs where it's workable? So I can have a bad dish. We've all had a bad dish before, but we could dock it up, you know? Spaghetti, one of my favorite meals. I've had spaghetti that wasn't the greatest. Did I throw it out? It depends. Sometimes it may need some more sauce. We can fix that, right? It may need some more spice. It's not really seasoned the way that I like it. I went to Olive Garden the other day for some spaghetti. Had to add a little salt and pepper, you know, add it up to like make it to my liking. The noodles might not be enough noodles. We can add more noodles. The meat, not enough meat. We add different meats. But sometimes if the noodles are bad, too mushy, not done, maybe we should just make a sloppy Joe. But it's not totally a done deal. And I like this because what once was spaghetti, I now made something else out of it. Meaning you thought that person was just a friend, but they became family to you. A different reason for them coming into your life from what first was expected. They may become a lover, a confidant. Who knows? You know, a sister from another mister that you are so excited that you met. So sometimes what it first comes as, you know, you're thinking this is going to be the man of my dreams, the woman of my dreams. And they weren't meant to be that, but to be a friend to you. So also knowing what different levels people come in our lives for. You just have to know when it's worth it. Again, sometimes it takes us a while to get there, but we find out if we really want that person to be a part of our lives, and we do the work to make it happen. Now, some of the bad traits can be worked out as well. Sometimes the root, though, let's talk about roots. Sometimes the root of why something is bad is insecurity. It could be bad situations they were in before, so they're responding this way again. But we got to communicate and talk about what's going on. Why are you acting this way? Why are you responding this way? Why are you not calling me when I call you? Or why are you not answering when I call you, rather? Or I text you, you didn't text me back. And I know you saw it because it's on red. iPhone did that little trick where you could know if somebody read your message. And it's amazing when people have it on. I don't put it on, but I like when it's on because I can see, I know you saw my message. Let me send you another one now. You know, even on Facebook, you can send a message. Instagram, you can send messages. You got to be careful. That can get you in trouble. Absolutely, because I want to know you saw my message and didn't respond. And sometimes life does happen because I know that you saw it that way. But sometimes when we don't know if they saw it. But again, things could be going on with the person. So you want to communicate. If that's a pet peeve for you, talk about triggers and pet peeves. Two different things. A trigger is something that really just sets you off and you can triple into something else. A pet peeve is someone that you really don't like. You prefer that they didn't do that. You want to be able to communicate that with the person on whatever relationship level it is. So if you communicate, I really don't like when you don't respond to my text. They know now that they want to try to do better. So a response may be the next time, sorry, I missed your text. I was doing X, Y, and Z. This is the answer to your question. And again, we understand that everybody has lives and can't maybe always respond right when you want them to. But the hope is that you show that common courtesy because you don't know what's going on for that person. I had a friend the other day. I was calling her. She kept on saying, I got to call you back. I got to call you back. I got to call you back. After I'm like, Dad, when you call me, I try to drop it because I know you need some support. But when she, the day later, she said, I'm so sorry I missed your call. You good? Everything's all right? That's important. You know, I could have been ready to write her off. I wouldn't do that because the history that we have. You also want to check your history. If you have a good history with somebody who's been showing themselves to be a worthy and true friend, we don't have to cut them off. But if they've been repeatedly doing some things that you don't like and you've been telling them that disrespectful act that we talked about earlier, we might want to change that up. Obviously, you don't deserve a right to be in my company, okay? But you got to know the differences for that. So, signs that it is a good relationship. You have some trust, you have some teamwork going on, constructive conflict. I'm going to talk about that. Open communication, and there's a sense of peace. You know, you want to know, like, I feel like ease being around this person. If it's like just hectic all the time, you know, good vibes, good vibes. You don't want the negative vibes, the drama vibes. Now, it's sometimes that we want to be dramatic, sometimes that we want to be petty, but we don't want to do that all the time. We want to have a good balance, and you want to be able to find that balance wherever you can. One of my favorite sayings that's kind of coined by me is that life is a learning experience. What are you teaching? What are you learning? So I want to explore the good, bad, and toxic that we can have with ourselves. How often do you engage in self-care? Self-care is that time that you take to tend to you. There are days that I do not want to be bothered with people. It's totally okay. But the problem comes when I know I don't want to be bothered with people and then I allow myself to be bothered with people, I could turn a good thing into a bad thing because I'm messing up my own vibe by allowing somebody else in when I didn't want to let them in. We could have moments like that where we don't want to be bothered. We have some times where we decide to hang out, or you don't want to hang out. Again, you have to know yourself. And again, sometimes you don't want to talk. That's okay. Sometimes you don't want to be around other people. That's okay. Sometimes you don't want to be bothered. That's okay. But that's a piece of self-care. And if you're not acknowledging those moments, you can mess yourself up in a situation because they won't know how to respond because you're already in your way of being zoned out, thinking about what it is that you're doing. And then they'll say something, and you'll be like, and you're upset. You didn't have to get upset. You knew you didn't want to be bothered with nobody. So again, you have to also talk to that person in the mirror. Jennifer, you knew you didn't want to be bothered. I don't even know why you called. I can't tell you how many times I knew I didn't want to be bothered and call somebody, and then they say something that irritated me. You know what? I call you back. I'm not going to call you back not that day, maybe, because I knew I needed my me time. And you have to respect that, We get tired. We don't want to hear everybody's problems. We got enough of our own problems going on. But sometimes we do want to be there, but sometimes we don't. And you want to be able to, again, identify those moments so that you can keep yourself in a good space, because you'll put yourself in a toxic space and then nobody wants to be around you. And we need people. So you want to be careful for that. So you can't be there for everyone and you're not together. You have to take a moment for you. So life is a learning experience. What are you teaching? What are you learning? I work to make each and every lesson in life a lesson. Okay. Some tests I pass, some I fail, and some I have to take that class again, because that's just the journey of life. I went on a trip to New York the other week, and I learned so much about myself. So it was a spontaneous trip. Somebody else was like, I want to go to New York. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go. I learned so much about what that I'm going to go meant. So we got there. It wasn't necessarily that it was like planned out things and things like that. She wanted to go to a restaurant. We got to the restaurant. I'm like, all right, what else are we doing? Like, this is cool. But it wasn't nothing planned. And that's okay, because it was one, getting out of the city, going somewhere different. I learned so much about New York. If you're from New York, I apologize. I'm not a fan. You have to give me another tour to let me know if it's really worthy of me going again. But I learned different pieces of what I liked, what I didn't like, what I could have did better. And I also had to be careful in that, because my attitude changed a little bit sometimes, because I'm like, oh, I really didn't like that. So you have to keep your temperament together. And they was like, you all right? I said, I am, just reflecting. I really was reflecting, being honest too, because people that are around you know when you're having a good day, when you're having a bad day. So I learned what I liked about the trip, what I didn't like about the trip, and what I would do different. Probably not go again. I'm so sorry, Jules. I know you're from New York. But again, and it was funny, I reached out to Jules about it. She said, oh, you got that New York welcome. I did. But every place is different. But again, you have to know what you like, what you don't like, to let you know whether it's a good situation, a bad situation, or a toxic situation. Okay. So we get into these situations though, and the other party, they've played their part, but sometimes we ignore the part that we played. So again, you want to be able to acknowledge the pieces that you're doing in situations that make it that good, bad, or toxic situation. Okay, so let's talk about intimacy. Intimacy, I'm not talking about it in the sex aspect at all. I'm talking about it's a closeness. And my definition of intimacy would be two rocks committed to sharpening each other. And there are some spots that we don't want to touch, look at, smell, or even acknowledge. But there are some pieces of us that still needs to be sharpened and fixed, not fixed, but sharpened. We're always trying to be a better version of ourselves. So we only get that by connecting with other people. So from these good situations, from these bad situations, from these toxic situations, and as frustrating as these situations are, a lot of times it's not something that we wanted to be in. Nobody wants to be in a toxic situation. Nobody wants to be in a bad situation, but it's because of those situations that helped us to learn, I want to be different. I want to do something different. So, in sharpening each other, that person is committed to you for that day, that week, that month, that season, and they want to help you to become the best version of yourself. They don't always say it how you would like it. They don't always do it how you would like it, but it's a big piece. Are they doing it out of concern because they care? Or are they doing it just to really ruffle your feathers? You have to also know that difference. That is your measure to know what steps you should take. I have petty friends, because we can all be petty at times, but they address the concern as it occurs. I can have a conversation and say a word wrong. One of my pet peeves. Gotta know your pet peeves. I can say something and it comes out wrong, but you knew what I meant? And you want to now have an argument with me for 5 minutes? Unnecessary detour? And my reply is, but you knew what I meant. That's a pet peeve of me. But again, some people do that and they find joy in argument or bad or things of that sort. But if that's something you don't like, that good thing could turn bad real quick. Or nope, don't say that around that person because you're going to get another detour that you didn't want to have. Again, you got to know your pet peeves because that helps you to know whether it's a good situation, bad situation, or it could be toxic. Doesn't mean that people continue to do your pet peeves is toxic. Not at all. But it could be that you don't want to be around it. And all I want you to really, a big piece of what I want to share today is that knowing your levels, knowing your comfort levels, so that you know where you find yourself, where you feel comfortable at, and where you don't want to be at. So again, plugging this in, be careful not to be a participant in your pet peeve. So if I said it's a pet peeve of mine for them to correct me and they knew what I was talking about, if I see them doing something and I know what they're talking about, I just say, I know what you mean. Because sometimes you're so excited to be sharing something, frustrated to be sharing something, and it doesn't come out how you heard it in your head. But I understood what you were saying. So if you understand, I just respond, I know what you meant. You good. But there's some other things that might be a pet peeve. Let's see. Chewing with your mouth open. Ooh, not a fan of that. I don't want to see all that going on, But I can't say that that's a pet peeve and then I start doing it. Doesn't work, So with that good, bad, toxic, I can't say that this is bad and I'm doing the same thing. I can't accuse you of something that I'm still doing because I'm saying I'm superior and I can do it and you can't. I can do it, but you can't. What I look like? I'm backwards. I'm causing something to be toxic because I'm giving bad energy again, messing up the good vibes again. If it's something that you don't like, don't do it. Be mindful. And I have to catch myself too sometimes. I'll be like, I don't like that. So again, knowing your levels and catching yourself, calling yourself, drawing yourself to that mirror. All right, Jen, you could have did that better. It goes back to evaluating yourself. I have some friends. I know who to call for a situation. I just recently had a situation. I took one friend with me, but was calling and texting 3 others throughout the whole entire process. The friend that was with me, she pissed me off a couple times. Being honest. She pissed me off. I had to make a tough decision, and she was sharing with me options. I'm crying and upset about the situation. I'm like, I don't want to do that. She's sharing other options. I'm like, is she listening to me? I don't want to do that. If it ends with me today. Like, I'm not going to keep on going further and further and further. Like, come on. Like, are you listening? Stop telling me what I don't want to hear. Does that mean it's a toxic situation? Does that mean it's a bad situation? Doesn't mean it was a good situation. I called another friend. She was sympathetic, saying, I'm praying for the best. Called another friend. She's like, Jen, it's probably best you do it now. So I'm getting all this feedback from those that I trust. Intimacy, somebody to rock that's helping you to sharpen and get smooth and get yourself together. I then made the final decision. Now I'm a church girl. I saw God and I felt comfortable with what I was going to do. I just was having last minute doubts, which we can have. I even had a conversation with myself to know that I was going to do it, why I was going to do it, evaluating, my pros and cons to make sure it's definitely what I want to do. Again, you got to evaluate. But I also sought guidance from my intimate crew who knows me and can help me. I went forth with it, and my Lord, was that a day. But I had to end the situation before it got toxic. I couldn't be selfish. I had to let what was going on go. I was heartbroken. It wasn't a bad situation, but it was on the brink of getting worse. And sometimes when you know that, you want to let it go before it gets bad. And again, this is all types of relationships. Once it was over, I reached out to the friend that went with me, the one that pissed me off. I reached out and I told her thank you. Because sometimes you need somebody that's going to tell you like it is, give you all those different aspects, whether you want to hear them or not. Because that's helping you to make your decision. It made me so confident in my response, like, that's not what I want to do. Before I was shaky. But when she was saying that, like, no, that's not what I want to do. I want to do bam, 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 bam. Again, you have to make the decision at the end of the day. So you also want to be confident in the decision that you're making. And you want people around you that's going to hold you, accountable as well. I didn't want to hear that. I didn't. I was more frustrated. I'm like, I shouldn't have bought her. But I knew I needed support that day. So I picked somebody who I knew had supported me. Again, we talk about that history. If the history has been that person has been there for you, the history has been that person has your back and best interest in heart, that's somebody that you want around to support you in tough situations. So got through the situation. I said, thank you. Thank you for sharing what I didn't want to hear, because it helped me confirm what I needed to do. That's a good situation. Again, it's not always what we want to hear, how we want to hear, when we want to hear, but you have to know, this is still worthy. This is something that I can still work with. This is somebody that really cares for me. And you, again, only you will know that. You know what's best for you. But how irritating is that? Somebody to tell you what you don't want to hear. That doesn't make it a bad relationship though. It's healthy. That's a healthy sign. That good conflict that you can have to kind of work things out. Conflict, some people don't like conflict, but conflict helps us. I really don't like that you did X, Y, and Z. Oh, I didn't know that bothered you. Sometimes they don't know that what they're doing is irritating to you. It's not until you communicate that to them. I feel like I have a good relationship with God, but he has not done everything I wanted him to do. In fact, I'm still waiting on some things that he promised me, but that's another day, another story. But what I'm saying is that all relationships are going to have the aspects where it's not perfect, but you just have to know what's perfect for you. If it's not perfect for you because it is changing your mood, causing you to be irritated, agitated, you want to remove yourself from that situation and get the support for that. I checked in with the other two that I had been talking to, and, they shared how they were there for me. And then another friend I talked to, she was like, cry it out. Again, different aspects of friendships, different people in your circle that are there to support you. This is friendships, whatever, family, romantic relationships. You want those people to be able to be doing these different things. If they're doing these things, I'm like, wait a minute, I want to keep them around a little bit more. They're checking on my well-being. I'm checking on their well-being, and it's a mutual two-way street. Let's talk about discernment and intuition. Use discernment when pursuing, evaluating, or thinking about relationships, friendships, courtships, and ships in general, okay? Discernment is the ability to judge well, while intuition is the ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. So it's like, somebody just told me that's not right. We want to trust that sometimes, because sometimes that's helping us. They be like, something told me not to do that. Something told me, and we don't trust ourselves. We don't have confidence in ourselves sometimes. Now, granted, we have some times where we'll just do stuff because surface level, but sometimes it's like that gut thing that says, I should do this. And those times you should do it. Will it be good, bad, or toxic? Who knows? But again, you don't want to regret some experiences. And sometimes we miss out on amazing experiences because of fear. Again, I've heard it said too many times, I knew I should have, or I had no business, because sometimes they tell us not to do it. They say, don't go down that street, and we'll go down that street and something can happen. I had no business going down the street. And sometimes we can protect ourselves if we're in tune with ourselves, with that self-care piece, with that piece of having those one-on-one conversations with yourself. I am all for that, talking to yourself. Let me clarify though. When we're having conversations to try to figure out, should I do this? I'd be like, what am I going to have for lunch today? Minor thing. But I had that yesterday, or I really had a taste for that. You kind of can evaluate to see what it is that you want. Or you're like, what I want to wear today? What do I want to wear today? What's the weather? Things of that sort. Conversations with yourself. Do I want to pursue and call this the guy? Well, he did da-da-da-da-da. Finding out, again, evaluating. Is it worthy of you spending your time? Your time is valuable. Know your worth. Be confident in who you are. Okay? So evaluating, should you be in this situation? Again, we've all experienced some good relationships. We've all experienced some bad relationships. May not have all experienced a toxic relationship. I've been in some situations where it was emotionally abusive, because sometimes people could say things that's not too nice. And in those times, we want to be able to remove ourselves from those situations, because if we start a little flicker with saying something that's not too nice, eventually it's a bigger flicker. It's a bigger flicker. Then it's a flame and we can't get rid of it. So again, you have to know yourself, what you like, what makes you feel good. Sometimes it takes a bad relationship to learn what a good one is. Some of us have had the examples of parents being around to share with us, and parents being around as in like a 2-parent household or a 1-parent household, and we found out what relationship we want, how we would like it to be. Some of us may not have had that experience. So we're like, just from scratch, like, we're going to figure this out, yep, we're going to try with them. That didn't work. Let's try again. Or, oh, my heart was broken. But also I challenge you in those situations when something goes bad, when something separates, what could I have done differently? Because it's not always a good portion is them. We're going to blame it on them as long as it's over. Remember, we're going to blame it on them instead of blaming it on us this time, though. But a good portion may be them, but some things we did we communicate? Did we let them know that that was a pet peeve? Did we know that we didn't like them stepping on our toes? Did we let them know that we didn't really like the way that they made that spaghetti? Different things could be a higher level of importance for somebody else. So like it could have been, they didn't ever put that toilet seat down. That just was it. I couldn't do it anymore. Sometimes that's the deal breaker for somebody. While somebody else would say, they didn't say hello to me when they entered the room. Whatever your deal breakers are, but again, you have to talk about these things because they don't know that it's a deal breaker unless you talked about it. Last time we talked about grief, and having something go from good to bad to toxic to gone is a process. You want to deal with it before you get into a new situation. Some relationships are amazing while some need to go. Because we get some benefits, it is hard to let go though sometimes, but you have to look out for you. It can be, I just love that, they take me out and they treat me and they do these things. But if they're not doing some other things that you want to have done in your life to benefit your life, they need to go. We're wasting time. Time is short. And we're learning that day after day after day with this year. Time is short. You never know what's going to happen. So again, you want to make each moment count. So what am I saying? When it comes to good, bad, or toxic, you know what's good and you know what's bad. I'm not hating on nobody being a smoker, but we have seen the results of how damaging it could be. This year, we have learned how underlying conditions can make us more open to getting a deadly virus. Will you take control of your relationship with your health? Are you worried about your relationship with your health? So again, a relationship with your health, with your body, what are you putting in your body? Could be good, bad, or toxic. Solids are amazing, but we know if we put too many things on there, that solid can turn out to be bad. Or if it's something that we're not supposed to have, it could turn toxic and then cause another thing to happen. So again, we have to be able to take control to know what's good, what's bad, and what's toxic. So what I will take and what I won't take. We have seen the results of those in domestic violence situations trying to get out. And if you are currently in a domestic situation and you want to get out, I encourage that you seek support of professionals. Too often, the two try to handle it, and one is not feeling it, and it goes bad fast. But professionals can help you to make the protected moves, because I've seen too often too that somebody say, we can't be together anymore, and that person comes around, and then it turns into worse than toxic because now somebody has died. So I do encourage you to reach out. I will share the information with Julie of different places you could go if it is a domestic situation. I didn't want to highlight that today because I really want to also talk about the relationship with ourselves, because we know some situations that we are in and some situations that we need to get out of. Most importantly, if there are red flags in the field after hello, run. We don't have to get to what's your name. That hello told me a lot. Sometimes you gotta pay attention. We'll see that surface and be like, this is a good situation, and they're all flags are just going ding 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 ding, run girl, run boy, and we'll get into that situation. So again, being aware, paying attention. Sometimes we just want to have somebody around, friendship, whatever friendship, friends with benefits, whoever, wherever you found yourself. But again, know those red flags. Be aware of the red flags. You know what it is that you like. If that person came up and their hair wasn't together, I know quarantine styles, but we have come out of that a little bit. You get some clippers and work that out. But if it's a pet peeve of yours or someone that's like a deal breaker, like, no, we ain't doing that. Let that go before you get into it. Because again, you wasting your time and their time. And then if they come out to be that domestic situation and controlling and jealous and upset that you want to leave them because they feel like they done finally found a person, now we got another situation to deal with. Again, if you can nip it in the bud early, I encourage you to do so. But again, I've been a victim too, where I didn't nip it in the bud when I should have. And I've learned from those, I don't want to say consequences, but the experience to what to do better the next time. Again, we know what we like, what we will tolerate, and what we will not take by now. At least a glimpse of it, So keep yourself open to learning you so that you are aware of what category you fit in and what category you want to be in. Hard conversations doesn't make a situation bad. Life is not perfect. I'm striving to be better daily. It's a process. But you have to be, again, confident in yourself. I have some friends, as shared, that I can share with. Some friends that I don't want to always share with, because you find out what friend you could really, share your heart with. Some friends will be like, girl, that was really bad. Some friends will be like, I knew all along. That's not somebody I want to talk to. I knew it was bad. Let me have my moment, because when you had a problem with Johnny Lou and Mary Sue, I didn't say all that. I was supportive. So again, you giving out what you want so that you can get it back, and then communicating to let them know what it is that you're looking for. Again, some bad and toxic are similar, and they are. But again, scaling it for the good, bad, and toxic, you have to find out, what's good, what's bad, and what's toxic for you. So we spoke on toxic. Speaking on bad relationships, I will also categorize it as a bad relationship as having 3 or 5 of traits shared of a toxic relationship, because a problem becomes bad when it gets out of control. Now it's considered toxic. So it was good, then some problems happen and it caused it to be bad. And then when those bad things get out of control, that can become toxic. And again, you want to be able to get out of that situation. If it's too many red flags, too many flags, purple, green, blue, yellow, leave that shit. I want you to be able to survive. And again, what you may call good, what you may call bad, totally different. If a person has remorse and you see them working to change their behavior, that's growth. And that doesn't mean that it's a bad situation. But again, you want to track their history. What have they been doing since day one? Has it been beneficial? Has it not been beneficial? How can it be better? In ships, you're learning. Ships, relationships, family ships, spouse ships, whatever ships, you're learning about that other person. And there's some things that you will like, some things you won't like. Think of your top gripes right now when someone comes to visit you. What are your top gripes when someone comes to visit you? Sometimes you're excited for people to come over. Sometimes you don't want to be bothered. Again, you want to be able to know what it is that you like and what it is that you don't like. We all have gripes, but some of those things we can work out. Talk about your communication style. Do you assume sometimes that others know what you are talking about? Sometimes they may not know. You have to clarify. Another thing I love is love languages. Sometimes things are not as good because it's not received how you would like it to be received. So we have the words of affirmation, somebody that's an encourager or listener, physical touch, hugs, kisses, cuddling things, receiving gifts, the thoughtfulness of somebody, you thought of me to bring me some flowers, quality time, uninterrupted, put your phone down, extra service, going out of your way for something. Again, whatever one is your love language, sometimes you can do, let's say your love language is quality time, uninterrupted, you put your phone down. But their love language is not quality time. It can be frustrating because it's like, I want you to spend time with me. Or I'm spending time with you, so you should be happy. But if that's not the love language for them, you spending time with them is nice. But they like receiving gifts, or they like acts of service where you're taking on a task for them and things of that sort. So I love Gary Chapman with the love languages, encourage you to find out what your love language is. This works out with all aspects of relationships as well, too. Because sometimes you have a friend, you'll be like, I keep on buying them stuff and they don't buy me nothing. That might not be something that they do. They might not know that you want them to buy you something. Again, communication and knowing your deal breakers. Knowing what areas you're willing to compromise in without losing yourself. But also know, sometimes we do have to compromise because it can't always be our way. I can't say that you have to always wear a white shirt. I don't always wear a white shirt. We can't put these limits on people. Expectations. Expectations. Sometimes we have expectations of situations, and when it doesn't go how we thought it should go, we get irritated, agitated. But sometimes we want to lower those expectations. And I hate saying that because I do want us to have expectations. We do expect people to treat us well. We do expect people to not just treat us in your kind of way. But sometimes we expect somebody to do something and they don't know that you're expecting them to do that. And then when they don't do that, we're like, I didn't know that you expected me to come home at 5 when I got off at 4:15. Traffic happened and I couldn't get there by 5. Life happened. Or I didn't expect you to call when I got out of a doctor's appointment. Whatever. But again, sometimes we want to be able to share what our expectations are. And again, it's sometimes that, the people will surprise us, whatever relationship it is. But sometimes, again, we have to verbalize those things because we can't be expecting miracles to happen and we didn't tell them what miracles we wanted to happen. Okay. That's like, I'm gonna cook dinner and you expecting a full out dinner and they come back with McDonald's. Technically it was dinner. It just wasn't the dinner you were looking for. So next time you know. So when I say I want dinner, I mean I want X, Y, and Z. You got to lay it out because, a baby is the only person that can get away with this. We don't know for a baby, they can't communicate other than these cries and tears and things of that sort. So either they want to be fed, they want a diaper change, or they want to be held. And sometimes they just want to cry. We as adults, we that are able to verbalize things, we want to be able to verbalize to them, I'm crying because I need X, Y, and Z. Because if we're just crying and we're not verbalizing what's going on, a good thing can turn bad real quick. Because if we're not talking, how are we working to make something better? So I'm hoping that something I said was beneficial. It's all my notes that I mostly have for today. Any questions or anybody want to share about where they found themselves with good, bad, and toxic, and how you're also evaluating yourself to do better?